Okay guys, so I'm going to try and do a bit of a painting tutorial on some Infernals models that I'm working on for one of the lads. This list absolutely slaughtered me the other night and I've been very lucky to get handed it to paint. You've got the Hermit, you've got some of these Lamenter beasts which are absolutely terrifying because of their aura thing that gives -2 within 4 inches on attack rolls or something like that. I'll actually have to look up the card, but it's pretty good. Just see a support here while I'm talking. I've got Zorgarat, I don't know how to say her name. She's the caster that summons a beast for a fee, which is just ridiculous. I'm pretty sure this is Eilish Garrity. I think this thing is called a Wretch. These are all from the new Tribes files that they put out. There's just a couple of solos, maybe Cultists or something, I don't know what these guys are called. But I went outside to prime them and it is absolutely bucketing rain down here in Ireland, so I'm going to use some matte black airbrush primer to get the first coat down. I'm going to set the compressor to about 25 psi. It is air primer, so I'm going to sort of slap it into the airbrush. Test it out on a piece of the board. Okay, so I'm going to get started, so you probably won't hear too much from me from now on. Alright, so looking at the video here, we're looking at the Army Painter black primer trying to get sprayed into all the nooks and crannies of all the models, so trying to spin them around, get them in underneath the arms, under the cloaks, making sure to get in as many of the gaps as I can and getting a good overall coat down as the base coat and the primer layer. So make sure you wear a glove when you're doing this, because I totally forgot to put my glove on and now look at my hand. So I'm going to let that dry and we'll come back and hit it with a highlight. Okay, so I've loaded the airbrush up with some Dark Reaper as the first highlight colour, and then I'll probably do the majority of the rest of the work with the brush work, but this just gives me a chance to get some quick base coats down and start the painting process. So I've thinned it out slightly with some water, and I'm just going to start off with the solos because they seem to be almost dry. I'm just going to give them a quick dusting. So this is a quick dusting with the Dark Reaper coming in at about a 45-degree angle. Okay guys, so everything is dry. My plan from here is to hit it with a dry brush, hit everything with a dry brush of Mechanicus Standard Grey before I start doing any details. Then a black wash to try and get it to match the client scheme, and then start highlighting. So I'm just going to get started here. Well, it's only a small highlight, but I'll do a second coat, make sure. So there you go, you can see there's a slight difference in it. It's just to start building up the colours. I'm going to go ahead now and do the rest of it. Okay guys, everything has been dry brushed, just a light coating with the Mechanicus Standard Grey. I probably could have went up another layer and I would have used this to do it, which is Vallejo Blue Grey Pale. I really love that colour, but I'm going to save that for the highlighting after I've added the shadows. So going in for the dark wash with Army Painter Dark Tone. I'm just going to throw some of this out on the palette. Probably the guy I hate the most in Warmachine, the Hermit, the Henchhold Hermit or whatever he's called, Scribe, I don't know, but he's got some pretty nice rules, so no matter how much damage you do to him, he only takes 1 point, and then he does stuff to your army to make it suffer, which I figured out about in the last game. But anyway, just brushing this on, making sure I'm not getting any crap in it. I don't think I cleaned out my palette well enough. I'm trying to avoid any major pooling on this. Sure I'm getting it into all the recesses. And that's not pooling too much at the bottoms. And then I'm going to go and hit everything else. So everything else has been dry brushed, and we're going to go and hit all that with the wash, and then I'll come back once that's dry. Alright guys, so I'm back. I'm going to take some Dark Reaper and start highlighting this. Probably could have avoided going as high on it and just hit it with the Dark Reaper and then a wash, or I probably could have done putting the wash on lighter, but I'm going to fix that now in a second. That's an army painter dry brush I'm using now. Just wiping the excess off on the tissue, and then I'm going to go in. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of them all done in the Dark Reaper. Okay guys, so I'm coming in with some Mechanicus Standard Grey now as the first highlight, and I'm just working it from the topmost edges down, like so. Now I've already gone over this, but I forgot to hit record, so I'm doing it a second time now just to make sure I show you. So that's that one done. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the rest of the models. The likes of the small based infantry scale models have different colour schemes and stuff on them because they've cloths and pouches and whatever else, but I'm doing it as generic as possible at the minute, and then I can start adding in details once that's done, and it'll help me put down the base work for some of the cloth, the likes of the cloak and stuff here. So just catching the raised edges with the dry brush. And once I have everything done, we'll come back and I'm going to think about using some pale grey blue grey pale as literally an edge kind of top highlight. So it'll be really light dusting around the top of the model, because there's a lot of glowing parts that the client has in his army, so I want to make sure it matches it as close as possible. So we will be back once I finish dry brushing again. Alright guys, so I'm coming in with the blue grey pale just as a final highlight. Dry brushing onto all the dudes before we start doing any of the detail work. I'm going to go and do everything else, and then we'll come back and we'll start to add some of the green colour. Okay guys, so with the highlight done, I'm going to paint one of the infantry models. It's actually not too bad because it's a pretty simple scheme that the client has. So I'm going to use some Caliban green for the cloak first. I'm going to tin it down a good bit so I can try and get some of the colour from the dry brushing to show through. Right, when that's drying, I'm going to go in and base coat the cloth at the front with Screamer Pink from Games Workshop. Probably should have tinned that out just a little bit more, it's gone on a bit thick there. Right, when that's drying, I'm going to go in with some Mornfang Brown for the trouser leg. I'm going to paint any bandage kind of parts, the trouser leg, in this Mornfang Brown. Okay, let that dry. Here is going to be done with war paint, army paint or matte black. That's for the hair sticking out the back of this cloak. There's a little bit at the front for this as well that we're going to have to get. And then for the chains we're going to use silver. Plate mail metal from Army Painter. Straight that around the chain. Don't worry about hitting the locks because we're going to come in and paint in gold in a minute. Then we have some chains across this section. And then we summon this back. Right, I'm probably going to have to give him a few minutes to dry. Actually, before I do that, let's throw some gold on the locks as well. And then the only other thing I'm going to do before I start highlighting is this Vallejo colour, Pale Flesh. It's a game colour, it's what I use for it, and if you can see my wet palette on the ones I painted to make sure the scheme is alright, I tried to pour out my Army Painter purple wash and actually unscrewed the dropper lid in the inside, and I just poured onto my wet palette because I wasn't paying attention. So don't do that. So paint on all of the flesh colours with this pale flesh. Right, once that's dry, we can back and start adding the highlights. Alright, so going in with Warpstone Glow now as the first highlight on the cloth, leaving some of the Caliban green in the recesses and working towards the higher points. Okay guys, going in with some Wazdaka red now, we're going to highlight up the Screamer pink on the cloth at the front of the model here, leaving the Screamer pink in the recesses pretty much the same as the Warpstone Glow. Then we're going to mix some pink horror into the Wazdaka as the final highlight for the cloth, bringing that up towards the topmost edges. Next, I think it's plate mail silver from Army Painter. That's going to be used to paint the chains around his belt hanging down at the front of him, and then there's a couple of chains in the back of the cloak, which I got some on the cloak and rubbed off. And then we're going to paint some of the locks with Retributor armor that are hanging down off the chains. Okay guys, going in with Moot Green now as the final highlight on the cloth. This is literally your edge highlight, your highest point highlight. And I'm dragging this down along the higher points of it to try and draw the light along the cloak. You'll see here now it's kind of leaving a bit of the Caliban green and then some of the Warpstone Glow on the underside, and then putting the Moot Green on the top, dragging it towards the peak of the hood there. Any of the areas that kind of be hit directly by light. That's the plan anyway. Okay guys, so moving on to the beast, I'm going to use Caliban green, Warpstone Glow and Dark Reaper to build up the green. Blades, claws, teeth, any kind of protrusions like that. So I'm starting off here with some Caliban green to get the base coats down, and then going in with some Warpstone Glow and glazing that down towards the tips, especially on the sides here on the Lamenter Beast. Okay, going in with Army Painter Strong Tone. I'm going to paint this all over the chains, the locks and the brown cloth, not forgetting the chains on the back of the model. Okay, starting off with Screamer Pink, I'm going to use a glaze-like consistency to brush this into the recesses, deepening the shadows. So we're trying to add the shadows around the chains also, just to darken it down a little bit. Okay, next we have Vallejo Pale Grey Blue. This is the highlight colour for the hair, starting on the back of the model. Next, using Steel Legion Drab, this will be used to highlight all of the cloth and the bandages, so any of the brown areas. Okay, so for highlighting the flesh, I have Vallejo Pale Flesh, and starting off with the foot here, I'm just going to start highlighting up, leaving the shadows in the recesses and just adding a bit of pop colour. Okay, again, coming in with my favourite green triad, starting with Caliban Green. I'm going to base coat all of the smoke, working Warstone Glow in then as kind of a wet highlight towards the centre, making sure there's good coverage, and finally repeating the same step with Moot Green to create an OSL effect. Again, drawing this down into the palm of the hand. After that, coming in with Army Painter Matte Black to base coat the base of the model and to create a watery glaze for the shadows, drawing it into the cloak's deeper recesses just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. I'm obviously doing this back after I painted the model, so I'm coming in with Moot Green because I mustn't have been happy with the OSL effect in the hand, and just adding another layer to brighten it up. Okay, back to the Lamenter. Coming in with Warpstone Glow once the base of Caliban Green on his claws and teeth and spikes has destroyed. And we're going to walk it down towards the tips. That's where I want the brightest area to be. And then same again with the tongue. Once that's done, coming in for the final highlight with Milk Green, again walking towards the tips just to give it that kind of pop horror colour. Okay, so next up we're coming back in with some Screamer Pink. This is going to be used to paint the fleshy sections at the tips of the talons, just around the base of the green kind of claw spike size things. Coming in with Steel Legion Drab for the teeth, and once the teeth are base coated, I'm going to come in with another layer of Milk Green, again just to brighten up the talons with a quick glaze. Highlighting the fleshy parts then, starting off with Wazdaka Red, leaving the Screamer Pink in the recesses. Okay, once the Wazdaka Red's done, I'm coming in with some Pink Horror as the next stage of the highlight, leaving some of the previous two layers in the recesses. Okay, once that's down, we're coming in with the final highlight, which is going to be mixing Pink Horror and Wolf Grey as a very small kind of point highlight to give the flesh some pop and some sickly looking colour. Alright, for highlighting the teeth, I'm coming in with some Ushabti Bone, drawn the highlight down towards the tips of the teeth, leaving the Steel Legion Drab near the tips. Coming in once again with some Moot Green, adding it to the eyes and adding extra layers to the tips of all the spikes and talons and around the base of the spikes across his torso where it's kind of glowing out of his flesh. Army Painter Matte Black getting used on the base to cover everything to start. We'll do some dry brushing then. Looks like I wasn't happy with the Moot Green and the talons and topped it up with another layer of Moot Green. Who would have thought? With the bases dry then, I'm going to come in and start dry brushing with some Dark Reaper. I'm going to dry brush the whole base that we just painted black, making sure to catch all the edges. Next highlight layer for dry brushing then is Mechanicus Standard Grey, repeating the same process with the dry brush to build the transition and making sure to catch all the edges where possible on the base. The next highlight then is Pale Grey Blue from Vallejo. Once again hitting the base with the dry brush, which is basically the same as painting the flesh, is what we're doing here. Once all the dry brushing is done, coming in with some Army Painter Dark Tone, and this is going to be used to cover the whole base. Now with all of the washing dried on the bases, we're going to come in with some Caliban Green, and this is going to be used to base coat the raised outer line of the symbol for the Infernals, carefully working it all the way around. It's like a rim of the design that we're going with here. Once the Caliban Green is dry, we're going to use some Warpstone Glow as the first highlight. This is glazed towards the corners and the center of the design, so basically directly under the model is going to be the brightest, so we're drawing the Warpstone Glow into it. Then the final stage, you guessed it, Moot Green. That's going to be my pale sand, if you know that reference. So Moot Green focusing directly underneath the model and the intersecting edges of the corner, so it's just literally leaving the brightest colour at the meeting points. Finally then, to wrap up, using Caliban Green and a large brush from Army Painter, I'm going to paint all of the base rims in the dark Caliban Green. And if you've managed to do all that, this is what your Infernals will look like. We've got Vorgoroth, we've got Eilish Garty, we've got, I think it's Orn, an Umbro Guardian, some other chick I don't know the name of, possibly Eris. Yeah, look, thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, it's the first time doing the tutorial of this detail. I painted it using my camera at home, which I used to use for all my videos, and I just don't think the quality's up to it, and I can't change the lens on it, so it is a bit blurry. I'm sorry about that. The next one I've done, I've used my iPhone to do, and the quality is a lot better, and I'm able to get better focus and stuff on it. So let me know what I need to improve on in the comments. If there's anything you think I could do better or switch out or you'd rather not see, leave it all down below. I will get back to the comments and I'll incorporate them into the next tutorials. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you taking the time and have a good one.